Hello and welcome back to the podcast. This is season 2, Fit in Your 30s. And in this season, I'm going to be joined by Adam Kent. How are you doing, Adam? You all right?
All good, mate. Nice to be back.
Yeah, so Adam was on a podcast with me last week. We did returning to sport and the effects on COVID with amateur rugby. Because of great feedback from that podcast, Adam's going to join me for a whole season. And that season is Fit in Your 30s. So the title of this episode is Winning Your Battle Against Time, Stress and Confidence. And that concept's come up with my new program, the Fit in Your 30s training program. And that program is designed for people in their 30s looking to address their approach to fitness. And with addressing the approach to fitness, the biggest obstacles we feel we come at as blokes in our 30s is time, stress, and then confidence. So we're going to look at each of those subjects today. We're going to break them down, and hopefully you can take something from this and then apply it to your training. Within that training program, I'm going to put links in the bio below so you can see the new product I just launched, and I'll dive a bit more into that a bit later in the episode. So Adam Kent, welcome back. Adam Kent, if you missed last week's episode, is a master trainer at Virgin Active. He's been in the fitness industry for just coming up to 8 years now, and he's seen as one of the top trainers within Virgin, and he is very much qualified to talk about training in your 30s as a 30-something-year-old.
Yeah, mid-30s now, mate. I'm cracking on a bit,
to say the least. Right, so the title of this episode, Adam, is Winning the Battle, so putting a positive spin on it, winning your battle against time, stress and confidence. So let's break each of those down, and we'll try to relate it to our training. We'll try to relate it to the clients we've trained, the clients we've worked with in the past, and then hopefully people can take something away from that. So we'll start with time. So with time, time can be seen as an excuse to not do something, but also time is very much a big factor. Once you start taking on bigger responsibilities in your life, you might be progressing through your work, which then demands more of you, more time. You don't finish at 5 o'clock anymore, you start finishing at 6, 7, or taking work home. But also there's family responsibilities. Some people, mid-30s might be married, might have kids, and then they've got that responsibility as well as work, and then the thought of fitness and time just kind of disappears. So like we were talking about this just before we got on, like time constraints very much are jobs, kids, hours in the day. So with that is that we need to find an approach. That's a problem. We need to find an approach of getting around it, right?
Yeah. So I think you kind of just said there's like quite a few of the usual excuses when it comes to time constraints. So you've got jobs, kids, responsibilities, just hours in a day. You know what I mean? It's just there's only 24 hours, and you've got other things to fill that with. And I feel that the problem that most people have with the time constraints is not understanding how to get the most out of those time constraints. So generally, most of the time, people don't really know how much time they really need to spend on themselves for fitness. That probably comes into a lot of not being able to set their goals properly, because you don't really understand what it is that you're trying to do, achieve. You don't really understand how much time you need to dedicate to it. And that's come from loads of, ex-clients and current clients as well. It's one of the things is that a big part of time constraints is commitment. It's like, right, I want to commit to a regular schedule throughout the week, and I've got all these barriers and hurdles that I need to get over. So people kind of really need to, probably the first hurdle is set the goal, and with that, use that as the motivation. So what is it that you want to do? Right, okay, let's just say I want to lose 5 kilograms. Okay, so that's your commitment. Right, why do you want to lose that 5 kilograms? Well, you're a heavier guy now, you're finding it a little bit harder to move. I've felt that, towards the end of season sometimes when, I've started like my fitness somehow has degraded over a season rather than improved. And I kind of feel that, if you don't have those bits and pieces in, people can get really lost in the week, because it's like, well, okay, my priority is now work, so it's not fitness, it's not really anything, because I'm so blasé about the goal. I just want to get a bit fit, I just want to do a bit of this, I just want to do, and they end up not even going to the gym. You know what I mean? So it's
But
for
also on that,
me. Oh yeah,
we're going to do an episode on goal setting a bit further down this season.
yeah,
A lot of sometimes people go set just too unrealistic goals that are so easy to give
yeah,
up on. And we're
definitely.
going to go. This is a subject on its own, but they're trying to go right. Zero men's health model, men's health model.
Yeah,
And if I don't get there, it's not worth doing. And it's just like no. Just committing to doing 12 sessions a month, 3 sessions a week for 4 weeks is actually quite a big goal.
yeah,
You can then go performance measured fitness goals by saying, I want to run 5K in 24 minutes instead of 26 minutes. That's a very good measurable goal. And we're going to do all that later on. But if I say, if they don't have a clear vision of what they want, then they can sometimes get lost in that. But the place to start is trying to build some form of consistency within
definitely.
training and more thinking about it from good habits, good long-term habits, thinking about the long-term game of being healthier, not being injured, moving well, looking good. And then I think sometimes people set unrealistic goals that then throw them off, and then it just feels like fitness then becomes a little bit of a stress, a little bit of like kind of going nowhere with it. And with time, it's like, right, how much time do you actually need to train?
That's a big
like
one.
we're in a bit of a luxury position in our lifestyle. We know that very much 30, there's a lot of 30-year-olds out there that don't live in a gym like we do, and
they have proper jobs still.
Yeah, fitness has always been a big part of our lives. It's always been like a priority. So the thought of not training has never occurred to me, mate. Taking a rest day or maybe two rest days because my body needs it, that's kind of like a big step compared to some people where getting to the gym twice a week, never mind taking rest days, is so like I think we've got to approach this from two different sides. But how much time do you really need? And for the average person, 3 times a week definitely is a target you should be going for. And I've built my program for this around structured 30-minute sessions.
Nice.
Because that's just the best place to start. You don't need to trap yourself in for an hour. You don't. You can be effective. It's just what you're doing within that time, right?
Definitely. I think it's right there in kind of you're trying to set up like good habits. You're trying to commit to a schedule, and I've always thought the best approach when it comes to fitness, especially obviously when you're starting out or you're trying to get back into it, is looking at the small and often approach. It's better to do like little bits here and there throughout the week, rather than trying to go ham all in. Like, you've had those clients before. It's like, I want to train 6 days a week, and you're like, oh buddy, let's slow that down. And it's like, you want to, it's like, sometimes it's great hearing that, you know what I mean, because you think like as a professional, sometimes the financial commitment from a client there, it's just like, well, okay, well, you're going to be training me every day, it's going to cost you X amount of money, great, awesome. But long term, like that client is not going to stick with you, or it's probably going to fall off quite quickly, or have like really over committed to it. So I always try and guide people into, look, come train with myself, I'll teach you what to do, and what to do in the gym by yourself, and I only need you to come into the gym an extra, like, if you want to come in 6 times a week, cool, awesome, but I want you just come in those 3 times, mainly one with me and 2 other times with yourself. And it's just trying to set up that good habit. And it's why, like, obviously you've talked about your program that you've launched, and that's why I think programs are really good, because it can structure people's workouts like that. It can keep them to a schedule throughout the week, and people then can start planning around it as well. So when it's just like, well, people look at their watch, it's like, oh, I have time to go to the gym. What I mean? It's like, really what it should be like, right, I know Monday 7:00 I'm going to be in the gym. And you do have to make sacrifices sometimes. That means maybe not going to the pub with your mates.
You need to find the time. You need to kind of say, this is the time this is going to happen. And like you say, with having a program or a schedule, it's something you can tick off. So that's a little win as well. Let's say
nothing better than ticking something off, mate.
Yeah,
that on the old to-do list.
I love a to-do list. Let's say you want to train Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's a great approach to the week. You missed a Wednesday session. Well, it's your responsibility then to either move everything to the right and then train Thursday and Saturday, train Thursday and Friday, or train Friday and Saturday, and just fill it in within that time. If you do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you want to go do something for the weekend, then you're up for the month.
Yeah.
That's just such a good way to look at it. And like you said earlier, with little and often, I think the biggest way to look at that is like steps. People take steps as so for granted and easy because walking's easy, but like you know, by getting an iWatch or even just tracking it on your phone, it'll show you how many steps you do in a day. And like, there's been a significant difference with everybody with this lockdown. Because I know I used to do a minimum of 12,000 a day, without even actively going for a walk, just commuting, running around the gym all day, commuting home. And then when I was like, now I work here, a bit in the garden, a bit on that common. Now
6x8.
My average went down like 12,000 to 5,000-6,000 a day. That's going to have a knock-on effect. So like a lot of time I set people like step targets of just going, right, I want you to do 35,000 steps in a week. You can split that into 7 5Ks, so 5K every day. Or if you start to get behind, you can catch up on the week. And that's just like a little goal that doesn't sound like it adds up. But if you're not someone that walks 5,000 steps a day, that's 35K in a week of extra activity you could be doing. But you just got to make space for it. And I talked previously in an episode in season 1. I was like about finding time. People don't have dogs. When they suddenly get a dog, they all of a sudden find 2 hours a day to go walking because they have to. Like my parents didn't do any fitness. They were just working, and now they've got 2 dogs. Both of them. My mum especially walks a good hour and a half with our dog Charlie because he needs it, and then Dad takes him out. So without having a plan to walk and not having the time to walk, that was forced onto them. So then they're like, right, these dogs have requirements I need to find, and now it's just a part of their day. Dad has to wake up an hour earlier, but he wants to take the dogs out. So with fitness, if you're not training, you need to find that time, make that time.
I think we've spoken about before about sometimes when we have clients which we call like high functioning or hyper functioning clients, people that have like their own business, they've got everything going on, and yet they still smash it in your sessions. They do all their homework, and they're like just super successful at everything that they do. And there's been many times that I tried picking their brains because I'll be almost envious. I'll be like, how is it that you just keep this going? And it sounds so moronic when you ask people like that, because they just kind of almost shrug their shoulders. It's like, I've got to do these things, otherwise it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? And they just have their priorities set. It's really good, exercise in time management. If you make sure all your big rocks are in place, and you put your smaller rocks in, and then you fill it with the sand, and you make sure that everything fits into that container. And you do find that some people just don't have those priorities. So like for your parents, for example, they have the priority now. It's like, right, I have to take the dog. What happens if they don't take the dog and they don't feed their dog? Well, it's the worst case scenario is that dog's not going to be around much longer. But people don't have that priority with themselves, and that's the strangest thing I find about when you talk to people. It's just like, this one piece of machine that you got with you 24 hours a day, people just don't care about it. You know what I mean? Or not as much as they should. And you obviously do see that with people when they sort of neglect their sleep, they neglect their mobility, they neglect their diet, they neglect any kind of form of stimulation for their body. And when you end up at like 30 years old and you're kind of looking back on things and you kind of go, how did I end up like this? And you kind of go, oh, actually maybe I didn't do any of those things, or I didn't commit the time to do it.
So then with that, with like trying to find a time, then it can start to seem stressful, which is point 2. You're winning a battle against stress. So with more responsibilities comes more stress, and the last thing you want to see is training as a stressful experience. You don't want to see training as I've got to go find the time to train. I'm not feeling well. I'm not feeling well. So I'm feeling a bit tired. yada yada. You only make this excuse, and then training's just another stress to add to this stress bucket. When really it should be seen as the opposite. It should be seen as your positive outlet. Like, you know, we still play sports, so that's our like outlet from life to get away from normal day-to-day kind of life and training. Life responsibilities, where some people don't have that outlet, and if you don't have that outlet, it will catch up on you one day, and then that just creates another stress. And if you can make training, right, you know, 3 times a week, this half an hour period to myself is when I'm going to focus on myself, have some time away, and then get back into the swing of things, you know, that's going to be huge for your mindset, for your morale, for your energy levels. And I think it's if you can switch the thought of training to a positive outlet, you're going to go in the right direction.
So that's kind of like stepping on the kind of growth mindset. So it's kind of trying to reframe negative thoughts and emotions into more positive thoughts and emotions. So say, for example, like, you know, you go to a workout and you're going for like a PR, or you've got things scheduled in your workout that you want to do, and you don't quite hit it, or you don't quite like get to what you want, or get what you want out of that session. You know, how easy is it to be like to walk away frustrated, to be like annoyed and angry at yourself, or, you know, sort of blame something else. It's like, oh, you know what, like, because my client was late, so I had to push this an extra 20 minutes, and oh, I didn't quite get to eat today properly, or, you know, I woke up a little bit late. And you start to blame things, and you don't kind of take any responsibility for it. But what you could do in that situation is go, right, you know, you can have a look and be reflective and be critical about things, but really, what have you learned from that experience? It's like, right, okay, I didn't get to eat today, so I need to make sure that I do eat. And then, you know, try and figure out the things that you have learnt, like that day. You know, okay, cool, I didn't get to hit my PR. What is it that I need to do? What did I get out of today anyway? Well, I came to the gym, I worked out, you know, I had fun still. I mean, I'm disappointed that I didn't make this, and I acknowledge that disappointment, but, you know, use that as a guide and motivation for your next session. It's right, well, what do I need to do tomorrow to make sure this doesn't happen? Okay, right, well, I need to make sure I'm getting up. You know, maybe I'm being a bit stricter with my clients and making sure that if they do run over time, that I'm, you know, keeping to a schedule better myself. You know, has my training been off this week? You know what I mean? Like, have I actually been committed to all the previous training that's led up to this test where I should be? And if not, okay, cool, I need to, you know, sometimes sit down. And that's why I feel like self-reflection is so important after a workout, because I'll generally go, you know, like as I said, we do have a bit of a luxury of working in the gym and having an extra 10-15 minutes after a session. I'll tend to go for like a walk. I'll sometimes just throw on a treadmill, you know, just go on an up incline walk, and I'll just think about the session I've done. I'll just think about what is the things that I want to do and improve on. How did it go? The other side of it is this, like, because what I don't want to get into is I don't want to get into a negative mindset to the point where I don't want to go to the gym and I hate working out. Like, because how many times have we had that kind of like almost like guilt and anxiety sometimes? Like, you look at work and it's like, I don't really want to go and do this hard session today. Like, oh Jesus, I've got to do this today. And then you push it off, and sometimes, you know, you kind of think to yourself that, oh, I put something in this program that I'm not comfortable with doing. And, you know, like, the worst thing is that when you kind of you tin off a workout and you're like, oh, I've got something to do else, so I'll do it. And then later that day you kind of beat yourself up because you're like, I should have gone and done my workout, you know, I should have done that, you know, and it just adds on top of all that guilt. So I think we've spoken about this book before, the old chimp paradox.
We had a chat,
Yeah, it's a really good idea in the sense that obviously there is a little voice in the back of your head that is going to feed into negative emotions, very like quick reactions to quick emotional responses, and you just need to try and develop a skill of quieting what they call the chimp. You know what I mean, quieting that more emotional, animalistic side of you is like, don't bother. too hard, and you put it off till later. Let future Adam deal with that. You know what I mean? Like, and then when future Adam does turn around and he starts, I hate past Adam. Why did you not go for your workout? Why did you not go for your run? It was easy. Like you could have easily just gone to the gym. It's not, it's one of these things that I try to relate to my clients as much as possible, and I try to say, look, I understand all these issues and stresses that you have, because I have them as well. Everyone has stresses when it comes into the gym. Everyone feels a little bit negative sometimes when it gets into it, but you've got to try and recognize that negativity, and then you've just got to kind of take a little bit of a step back and be a bit of an adult about it, and just be like, right, why am I feeling like this? Do I want to feel like this? No, I don't. So I need to obviously improve and get better at it. So with that, that's why I always say to you, it's like, asking for help is a big one. Don't let these unwanted negative stresses put you off working out. It's why hiring PT sometimes is a great idea.
I talk to people. I follow a program. I don't just make up as I go along, because then I know if I do, then I'll hit certain walls or cherry pick too much. And then we talked about 80-20 approach, and that's what I always run about as well. And it's like, if a lot of your week is at a sustainable amount, and then you might have one hard day, and you can build yourself up to have that hard day. But it's like, there's lots of little wins you can have with training, and this is what I mean by turning it into a positive outlet. Is when you do little bits of testing and measuring, and you can quickly assess, wow, like I'm moving better, or I'm pushing out more watts, I'm rowing faster. There's just that little pick me up, and that adds up a lot over time. All these little wins, you don't need a graph that goes straight up. You just want to get 1% better every time you go and train, and then you'll make a steady graph of progress, right? Go on.
Yeah, I was just going to literally say, like, that it was almost like the fallacy of not testing and measuring, because you're right. You can see progress, and you can see it in very, very small wins, but it's very hard to sometimes eyeball that. You know what I mean? Like, because how many times have you spoken to a client and they've gone into the gym and it's like, right, okay, so do you know what you can lift, what your numbers are? And it's like, and they go, oh, well, I think I used to lift, this amount of weight, and you're kind of like, all right, mate, like, looking at you, I don't think that's happening. And then you kind of like, right, well, now, so right, okay, so we need to test you. We need to make sure that we can figure out where you are, like, day one, and then we can use that as a measuring stick to figure out where you are in 2-3 weeks time, or 6 weeks time when you're doing your retest or something like that. And obviously having it all relate to your goals, and so sometimes that can add on stress. Sometimes people think of like the stress of putting on stepping onto the scales is stressful. Some people, all right, cool, don't use that as your measure. You know what I mean? Like, use other things as your measure. Use, like, do I feel good today? You know what I mean? Like, you can write mood diaries. I know, so like, some people are into that. Some people are just into, like, for example, when you do a consultation with people, when they say, I want to lose 5 kilograms, like, why 5 kilograms? What's that number all about? And they're like, and it's like, what is it that you want to do? And it's like, I've got a wedding coming up, or I've got a holiday coming up, and I want to fit it into a size 10. And you're like, right, okay, cool. So that's the measure there. That's all right. You want to get into a size 10. So really, it's not about the weight; it's more the measurement. But you've just got in your mindset, you've anchored in a number into your head that you want to move, but that might actually have nothing to do with your goals. So then the idea of testing, measuring changes as well. And it's just like, okay, cool, right? So your goals shifted slightly now, and then how are we going to make sure that you're motivated? Cool, right? Every week we need to take a hip or waist measurement to make sure that you can now fit into that. Go from that size 14 down to size 10.
I mean, if you're someone that's not really into training, and you've not really gone before, the little wins you can have really, really do add up. And it's until you start training and seeing them, you don't understand the mental benefit of having it. I was actually talking to a client yesterday who's got a turbo. He bought a turbo 6 weeks ago, and then cycling turbo, so you can cycle indoors. With cycling indoors, you get a test called the FTP test. That's what cycling's measured on. He'd done his test. 6 weeks later, he redone it, and he's improved by 26 watts on his FTP test, which is a significant change. You know, it's quite a huge jump in wattage, and he's just like over the moon by it. You know, he's just been cracking on, getting his head down, doing his training, got into a rhythm. He was focused on more consistency more than just performance, but with that consistency, his performance went up. You know, and that's like very measurable. And now he can goal set again, and he's very much into it, and that's like a huge positive win. So with that as well, we were talking about not having enough time to train, and now just try to find 3 slots per week to train, and then just make it your priority. We talk about stress and turning the thought of training into a positive outlet. But then with all this and being in your 30s is a subject called confidence and having confidence within the gym. And I think especially for blokes in their 30s, they do not want, or at any age really, but especially in their 30s, you do not want to look silly when you do something. And the thought of like feeling silly in the gym, doing stuff you don't understand. And when you see new people in the gym that have never been in the gym before, you always see them in the same areas, right?
Yes, they like to stick to their little spots.
Well, they're on the cross trainer because you can't do that wrong. And they're normally, and they're normally
you'd be surprised.
And they're normally on maybe the lat pull downs, some of the cable machines. All the machines more than anything. They don't tend to go in the dumbbell free weight areas because they just don't know what they're doing, and they're trying to choose bits of equipment which they don't look silly on and they can't do wrong, which I totally get. So like, and that's because they might have seen somewhere some high complex movements that they don't want to do. And you was telling me before, because you teach a strength class, don't you? Like a metabolic conditioning class at Virgin, and you've seen men go to your class, love it, but when they go onto the gym floor, they're like, I'm not doing burpees down here, mate.
It's a funny one because I will I take the approach of classes is like it really fits in a lot of that kind of probably the demographic and the audience that you're aiming for. So people that have very finite amount of time, want to stick to a schedule, and my classes were like 6:30 in the morning. So you had people getting in, legging it. Some people were legging it 5 minutes before the class even finished, so they can get down in the changing rooms and back onto the tube up into the city when that was a thing. So so for me, I used to see like most gym classes, I think you would have a good split of probably around about 80-20. It's like 80% females, 20% blokes and things like that. And I did start to see a little bit more, coming a bit more 50-50 in my classes, generally because we were doing very we were doing like turbulence style training, so like kind of like doing good complex weight movements, like big compounds, so making sure that they're we're hitting all the different body parts, and then we're following up with some like high intensity interval training. So it was just a really good structure for people to get their heads around. I try to make things so simple that A, I can remember it when I'm teaching it, and B, easy movements that people could go down into the gym and do. Because what I really love seeing is people coming to your classes and then going and replicating that stuff down in the gym. Now, as you said, I would then go down and see some of the blokes that would be in my class, sort of more, when they come back in the afternoon or, later in the week. And they would ask me, why, or could you set me up a program? I said, oh, hey, why don't you just do some of the, of course, happily set them up a program, but why don't you just do the stuff that we do in the class? And you're right, it's like, mate, I'm not doing jumping lunges, I'm not doing, one-legged stuff in the gym. And you're just like, okay, you would happily do this in a class of like 30-40 people, everybody else doing exactly the same thing as you, but as soon as you're on your own down here, and you've been trained well. You know everything on why you're doing it, because I will yell at you why. If you're not doing something properly, I'll be like, all right, I'll take my time in the class sometimes to explain things. And yeah, it's a strange mentality. Like, I think it is definitely like it is a bit of a bloke thing, and not to try and sound sexist and that. So it's more the kind of overconfidence, and probably when people talk about the idea of that toxic masculinity, is that men don't want to look silly and stupid in front of other women and other blokes. You know what I mean? They want to go into the gym and they want to lift big heavy weights, even though it might not be good for them, and they will sometimes overcompensate and lift heavier weights than they should be. That's obviously I know a bit of a kind of an oversimplification of things, but how many times have we seen things where people are like doing half rep range movements because the weight's too heavy, or not going and fully using full intensity on their workouts because they might bust a sweat, and nobody wants to look sweaty and out of breath on the gym floor.
And a lot of that comes from just like picking up random workouts from random places and then trying to get and they're just trying to, which is fine, you got to learn somewhere, but it's like with like the confidence of training in the gym, it's not got to be this complicated program. It's really not at all. Do you need the back squats? Do you need a back squat, or can you just do a kettlebell squat? Yeah, well, a lot of the answers to a lot of things in fitness is it depends on your movement literacy, what your goals are, and kind of what your training experience is. You don't need to go, right, the only way to get fit is to do back squats. Like, no, there's other ways to train. If you're not confident racking up the rack and going through that process, it's better to do kettlebell squats well in just a functional area instead of like trying to injure yourself or doing something wrong in the barbell just because you saw it online, especially with all the cool movements like clean and jerks and snatches and chucking barbells around, which I like to do. You haven't got to do that. There's better ways to train, and you don't need to be jumping on a treadmill, sprinting and getting off and launching kettlebells in the air. You don't need to do that.
That's the PT workout.
Free-weight training goes a long way, and so there's just a better, smart approach to training, and something with confidence, which I try to tell everybody in the gym, is nobody cares about you when you're in the gym training. Nobody's looking at you. They're there for themselves and only themselves. And
you're the center of your own story at the end of the day, and you think you're the protagonist. But everyone's the protagonist in their own story, you know what I mean? So when you go into the gym, unless you're doing something like incredibly stupid, like doing some circus exercise that you've seen on Instagram, then most people don't care. If anything, I say to most people, like I've got more respect for people that turn up for the gym and work out and do anything, especially like big blokes as well, like or big women when they come in. I'm like, respect for turning up to the gym and working out. I don't care if you've just gone for your 20-minute jog, you're still doing something. What I mean? Could they be doing something better? Could they be doing something more? Yeah, of course, everybody could, but the fact that they've stepped into the gym in the first place, that's awesome. And as I said, I'll try and relate as much to my clients as well. And I feel silly in the gym sometimes. Like, I'm quite unconfident a lot of the time, and people think that PTs are like these perfect specimens and can do everything. Pull-ups is my big guilty one. It's just like, I hate doing pull-ups in the gym because I can basically do about 5 or 6 and I never really put that much time and effort. As long as I could do 5 or 6, I'm okay. I mean, I think we always have this conversation. If you can do 6 pull-ups, wicked, we're having a good session. But when I've had time off, like I've been injured, as I said, that sometimes just life does get in the way, and the first thing I go back into the gym to do is like, right, I need to test myself. I go back on the pull-up, wide grip, right, let's go. And it's like, right, 1 and a big breath, 2, and then you're like, right, okay, this is not looking good. And then you kind of can feel that a little bit as a PT, that people might have more eyes on you because they expect you to be able to do all these wonderful and magic things, but it's
But also, like, so like with the confidence side, just like a bit of sum up with that, you don't need high complex workouts. People are not watching you. Like as a PT, when I'm with clients, people are watching me, but they're almost seeing through the client because they're trying to figure out if they want to train with a PT or what a PT does, but they're not actually interested in the client. So if you're someone that's ever been a bit nervous in the gym or feel you look silly, don't follow a random workout of Instagram unless it's kind of more aimed for like you. Stay away from high complex exercises. They're not you don't need them to get fit, and no one's watching you. They're focusing on themselves. Because it's one area in life where you go to where you're not really there to meet friends. Like in my kind of in gym boxes set up a bit socially, there is a bit of that, but like most of the time people are going there for their self, right? They're in their zone.
Yeah, want to get in, get out.
Yeah. So as the program, the way I built this fit and 30 kind of approach, I think we've handled that quite well. We're talking about time, stress and confidence. So with time, just make a slot, find a time for yourself, find a 30-minute period to go focus on a bit of fitness. With the stress on the approach to training, you've got to switch it and only see training as a positive outlet. And then with confidence, to stay away from high complex stuff. You don't need to do that to get fit. There's a better, smarter approach to get fit.
Right. So with that then, if I was, say, a prospective client of yourself and I wanted to go into looking into this Fit for 30, what is it that I could expect, sort of purchasing this program? Because this sounds awesome, you know what I mean? It's like, for someone that's kind of, thinking about having to go back and rebuild my business, I'm probably going to be a bit time constrained. I might need something like this.
Oh, I'd love it if you did it. But like when I was building this program, right? So when you build it's a generic program. So this is not tailored to an individual like one-to-one personal training is or one-to-one coaching is. This is like a program for kind of like a mass program that the majority, 95% of people will be comfortable doing and following by themselves. Now, I kind of like when you run a program like that, you've got to I always think about structure. My first bit of structure was 30-minute sessions. And then it was like the big thing about equipment, like where to go with equipment. So I made 3 variations of the program. There's a body weight and band. Bands are cheap, and body weight on its own is really hard. You have to be with body weight programs. People think body weight programs are basic. To do a good body weight program, you need to be fit. You need to be able to do press ups, explosive jumping lunges, and that. So like just body weight on its own can be a bit challenging. So I made a body weight and band program. A dumbbell and band program. If you want to train at home, we need a set of dumbbells or a set of kettlebells, and you can do that in the gym or at home. And then I've got the gym program, and the gym program is dumbbells and then with some barbell work. So you need a mix of weights. So I've got 3 variations. You get access to all 3 variations, and you choose which variation is the most appropriate for you. And then you can jump between the programs if you suddenly join a gym or get access to more kit. But my approach when I was building it was like 3 days, 3 total body days. Focusing on like a bit of a compound move to start with, lots of core, lots of supersets, lots of like trisets, just to get the most out of your time in the gym, working on imbalances at the same time. So lots of single arm work, single leg work, so like single arm presses, reverse lunges, single leg work like that, and then with core mixed in. So it's very much a program with not circuits where you're huffing and puffing and it's not high intensity. It's more structured weights for 30 minutes. So there might be more of a compound move at the beginning, then lots of like accessory work to finish up with in supersets and trisets. 3 times a week for 30 minutes. And that program progresses, so all the exercises progress. So you're not going to go straight into you are a bit, but throughout the program, throughout the weeks, the exercises will progress. So you get to learn and learn different movements, get similar stimulus, but also kind of have some variety within the program.
Sounds awesome.
So I put a 2-week free trial onto that because there's a lot of people out there that just might have never followed the program, don't really know where, like if it'll be for them or whatever. So I put a 2-week free trial so you can just join, give it a go for 2 weeks, try to get some consistency, see if you like the first 6 sessions, and if you do, then the program will develop, and you'll grow within the program, and hopefully it helps you, if you're someone listening that's going to join, hopefully it helps you bring some structure and consistency within your training.
Nice. So I'll definitely be looking into that trial.
I'll set you up. You can be my testimonial.
Yeah, nice. Awesome.
Right, so that's the end of this episode. In next week, Adam's gonna be back next week, and for the next 6 weeks.
Sweet.
Next week's episode, I can't remember what we said it would be on. Let me just get it up. Oh, I can't actually remember what I said next week's is going to be on.
I believe.
It's background. We're going to talk about how that training history and kind of where we've our approaches to training over the years, because we both got brought up different ways. I very much got brought up in the British Army, and then I moved into fitness. So next week we're going to talk about our training, our background, and our experience within fitness.
Cool.
And then we'll go from there. As a quick plug-in, mate, do you want to tell us about your podcast? If you don't know, Adam's also got a podcast, Adam and Craig. It's a film review on. You give a better intro.
Thanks. Quick plug. So I run a podcast which is very far removed from fitness. If you enjoy guilty pleasure movies, it's definitely a podcast to listen to. It's called Adam and Craig's Guilty Pleasure Cinema. It's a good friend of mine, Craig. We get together every week and we record just discussing the ins and outs of movies that we hold very dear to us. My background in cinema is, I went to university, studied film, and creative writing. And Craig is a very well accomplished screenwriter, so we do give some really good insight sometimes into the backgrounds of these movies and why things might have happened. If you're keen for that, check it out. Drop us a like and share. We're on Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz on socials, and you mainly listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Yeah,
I'll put the link below. What's this week's episode?
We just did Legion 2010, so that's the one with Paul Bettany. It's pretty hot right now, coming off the back of One Division.
Okay, all right, I'll put that in the link below, and if you want to listen more on Adam, you can go see that, or you can keep flying through my previous episodes. Right, thanks for being on, Adam. Thanks for having me. And we'll be back next week with season 2, episode 2. All right, see you next week.
See you next week, guys.